Hi Gosh Alchemy girls, I'm going to show you today how to make a very nice embroidery hoop with some mixed media action. What you're going to need is an embroidery hoop, a regular one, a piece of canvas that is going to work as our background. I'm going to be using the fabulous Blue Streak Mixed Media Kit by goshalchemy.wordpress.com. You can find it from their Artfire shop. I'm going to be using some pulcinella. In the Artfire shop of the Gosh Alchemy blog, you can find many kinds of pulcinella, many different diameters of circles. You can even find stars, hearts. It's so interesting, and you can make so many patterns and textures out of it. And also I'm going to be using from my monthly kit some vintage paper and some vintage plants that I think they're cool. So let's start our creation. So what I'm going to do first is put my canvas in the embroidery hoop and make a slight marking with a hoop to see which is the area that I'm going to be working on. I'm going to take off the hoop because I'm going to put it again back at the end. Can you see that I have made a slight imaginary circle? It's where I'm going to be working on. And I'm going to start right away. I'm going to be using some gesso and some acrylic paints. I have here a palette. I'm going to mix my gesso with some color because I want it to be colored. I don't want it to be white. You can work with white gesso from the beginning and then put colors on top, but I like to have it ready, the color that I want. So I'm going to put a generous amount of gesso and a slight amount because I want to have some light blue from some acrylic paint. I'm going to mix it up with my paintbrush. I don't care if the color is going to be even because it's going to give a better texture to my mixed media canvas now. And I'm going to start spreading the color all over. You see some parts have a little bit more blue, some are more white. I love that part. It has to be a generous amount of gesso. You have to really cover the canvas. Gesso is a material that artists use to prime their canvas before painting on top. So you get the picture. Oops. I'm gonna put some all over. So I have a slightly blue shade like that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait for it to dry up before going on to the next step. So my canvas is all dried up, but I'm going to use some texture before going to the next step. I'm going to use the fabulous pulcinella, and I'm going to work with some gesso on top of it. That's going to leave the spots like a 3D element. So I'm just going to dab it on top, put a generous amount pulcinella, gesso, and then I'm just going to lift it up and you can see the texture that it gives. It's going to be perfect when it dries up. And meanwhile I'm going to do some extra texture with my fabulous Blue Mixed Media Kit, but this time with gel medium. I'm going to use the gel medium because it dries up clear and not white as the gesso, and it helps also glue things down that I want to do. I'm going to put a generous amount of gesso somewhere in my canvas, and then I'm going to use, I have seen that there are some very nice sequins and beans on the bottom of my kit, and I'm just going to pour them on top of my gesso, and they're going to glue down really hard. When it dries up, they're not going to be able to move, and they're going to give a very funny texture. I don't know if you can see it. I'm just going to leave it like that. Plus, this is a time where I'm going to be using my fabulous paper, vintage paper. I'm going to tear up a part of it, maybe something like that I want to use somewhere here. And I'm going to put some gel medium down. I'm going to glue down the piece of my poem of yeah, it's actually a poem, the definition of poem from the dictionary. And then I'm going to put a generous amount of gel medium on top. And the gel medium, once it's going to be dry, it's going to be transparent, and it's going to work as a resist, so I can work with colors on top of it, and it's not going to mess up with my poetry definition over here. The same goes to where I put my beads. And I have also seen that I've liked this, it looks like a blueprint, vintage paper or something. And let me see, I think I'm going to work with the house. I always find that tearing the paper works better for mixed media things. It looks more cohesive to the rest of the pattern, because it doesn't look like you have clearly thought of it and cut one step at a time and in details. So again, I'm going to work with gel medium, put it on top, whoops, and then put some more gel medium on top. So this is my initial pattern. I'm going to let it really to dry. Then I'm going to put it through the embroidery hoops and stretch it. And then I'm going to show you a very cool technique with alcohol inks. So magic happens, and my canvas is all hooped up and ready and dried up. So you can see already, I have already painted my hoop in a different color because I want to give it a different shade. And now I'm going to show you a few tricks to accentuate some part of your canvas. I'm going to be using some baby wipes and the acrylic paint that I have used before to thinner my gesso, and I'm going to use it to accentuate my beautiful pulcinella pattern. So I'm going to get with my thumb, with my finger, yeah, not my thumb, my index finger. So I'm going to be getting some acrylic paint wrapped up in the baby wipe, and I'm going to slightly pass it through my pulcinella pattern, and you can see how it livens up. You can see that. It shows it even more. It's not white anymore, it's a perfectly blue shade like the rest of it. What I want to do now is I'm going to show you a very funny way to use your alcohol inks, because we have already put the gesso on the canvas. It's like we have primed it. So alcohol inks, we have made it like non-porous. Alcohol inks will work fantastic. And in the same time, I'm going to work with the blending solution, because I want the splats that I want to make, I want them to disperse and get bigger. So I'm going to put some here, and then directly I'm going to be putting the blending solution. Wherever I'm dripping, I'm putting some blending solution. And you can see that the paint goes out, it really wants to spread. And it makes some funny shades, and you can use different colors, but I just want to keep mine blue, 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 blue. So I have some extra spots here and there. I've used my denim alcohol ink. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a title to my canvas. I'm going to be using some StazOn ink because it is a non-porous surface, and it's going to be hard. I'm going to be using a small mounting acrylic, because I have to control where it's going to stamp, because it doesn't have underneath anything. So I'm going to dab it with my, oops, flies, with my black ink. I'm going to write the word home, because it gives me a homey feeling. So I'm going to put it here. I'm putting my hand underneath because I really want to have an even pressure everywhere, because it's hollow. Cool. And I'm going to put the O, and you get the idea. You can stamp whatever you want. The gel medium holds the beads perfectly, so you can keep all your trinkets you want. Well, all your leftover parts from your fabulous mixed media kits, you can use them to make a series of embroidery hoop canvases for your bedroom or your living room. So that's it. Home it is then. So with this logic, you can make a very nice series using always your Gosh Alchemy kit. So I hope you liked it and you're gonna try it. Thank you. Bye.